So let's look at the first example. A student records the number of text messages they send in a month. Let's create a frequency table and a histogram for this data. So it looks like they sent 2 texts one day, 7 texts the next day, right? It's important to understand what your data is telling you, the context behind it. We want to create a range. So first thing, what's our lowest value? It looks like 2. What's our highest value? Do a quick scan. 27 looks like the highest I'm seeing. So I need my amount of text messages to cover a range of 25. Right? Thinking about how many categories I want to split that into, somewhere between about 4 and 12. If I say that every 5 text messages is where I change my range, then I'm going to get 5 sections. So I'm going to say 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and 20 to 25. Right? There's lots of room. You don't really want to go fewer than 4 or 5, but if you wanted to jump every 3 text messages, every 2 text messages, you could do that as well. 5 is a nice number because we don't have huge amounts of data here. So let's go piece by piece. 0 to 5 texts. Again, the 5 is actually going to be included in the second range. I have 1, 2, 3, skipping over that 5, 4, 5. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So a frequency of 5. Second one, 5 to 10, 7 is between, 6 is between, 6, right? Includes the 5 in the second column, but not the first. Another 5 and 8, a 6, 7 and 8, and a 9. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On to the next one, 10 to 15. Well, I'm just going to go along the line, strike out any that I see between 10 and 15, including 10, not including 15. And then counting up those green lines, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 15 to 20. 1, 2, 3. 20 to 25. Again, including 20, not the 25. We have 1, 2, 3. And I forgot to write in my last range because we actually went all the way up to 27. I needed to also have a 25 to 30. And that one's going to look like we have 1, 2, 3. We want to check that we didn't miss any. Let's total these up. 5 plus 10. Again, this whole column should total to however many days we had, however many data points we had. 15 plus 6 is 21, plus 3 is 24, plus 3 more is 27, plus 3 more is 30, right? And I think we had 30 data points to start with because it was the days in a month. So we didn't miss anything. Crossing them out is an awesome strategy. Counting them up is a good strategy too. So now let's make our table. Let's label first. I'm going to put number of texts along the bottom. And I'm going to put frequency along the side. And let's give this graph a title. Let's say texts sent in a month. So putting our scale along the bottom, I have 6 columns, 6 buckets, 6 ranges. I'll just go up by 5 each time. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Right, we don't have quite enough to do 2 boxes for every bib. And then our highest frequency goes up to 10. So it looks like I'll just go right up to the top. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I'm just going to move our title. I'll just call it text sent. So going through the list, 0 to 5, we had a frequency of 5. So I'll go up to the 5th bar, fill that in. 5 to 10, we had 10 of these. That's going to bring us all the way to the top. 10 to 15, we had 6. 15 to 20, we had 3. 20 to 25, we also had 3. And 25 to 30, we also had 3. So again, we look at this graph, we analyze it, we make some statements, some conclusions about what we're seeing here. Right? Well, to me, this data tells me we can clearly see the most frequent range. So this person commonly sent between 5 to 10 texts per day. Right? Out of the whole month, the most common range that these values fell in was between 5 and 10. Right? We know that the max texts that they sent was 27. The minimum they sent was 2, and that just came from our data. Right? And we can see that they tend to send less than more text. Right? Tend to send, because we see the majority of our bars less than 15 texts a day. Right? Not a lot of our data was clumped over here on the right side. More of it was to the left, right? The lower ranges below 15. Right? Over half of our data was even below 10. So, some things that we can interpret from this histogram. Okay, moving on to our trying using technology to create histograms. We're going to go to our practice sheet, the one that we made a copy of. And we have our tabs down here at the bottom. So looking at the first one, Liam keeps track of the amount of money he spends in dollars on weekly lunches during one semester. So first thing first is to create a histogram. So again, we are going to make sure we can insert. And I'm going to go chart. It gives us our chart. We can move it around. I'm just going to grab this and kind of drag it out of the way of all of our info. So the main thing we want to do here on this setup is I want to specify that this is a histogram. So I find that all the way down here at the bottom under Other. Then for data range, again, I can type it in, or I can click and drag, or I can click the first value. Oops. Scroll until I see the second value, and if I hold shift, it will select all of those. Right? All of the lunch values are in cell A4, right? Column A, row 4, down to column A, row 22. So that's my data range, right? And already it's made us a histogram. We want to customize this a bit, right? This doesn't tell us anything. These are just some bars on a blank white sheet. So now we'll go to customize. So first thing first is I want to think about what is my bin range, right? What is my bucket size? Bin range is what Excel calls it. I scroll through my data. It can actually help us. Little tip, if I go format and I go we can actually find our lowest and our highest numbers a little bit easier using technology. If I want to see these numbers sorted in order, I can go Data, sort range, right? That's my selected range. From A to Z, that's also going to put it in numerical order. So if I select this, you see it shows me that at the top, my lowest value was 6. So the least that Liam spent on lunches was $6. And the highest amount was 48. It looks like he maybe took some friends out for lunch. So I want to go from $6 to $48. Let's go back. Let's edit this chart. Customize histogram. Let's make our bucket size 10. Right? $10 is a good different amount to spend on lunches. 5 would also be a good recommendation, but I wouldn't recommend anything smaller than 5 or anything larger than 10, because then we might have too many or too few ranges. Right? $5 might be a good place to start. So we can see, right? One lunch cost between 5 and 10. That was the $6 lunch. One between 10 and 15. Looks like we had 7 lunches between 15 and 20. Right, now that we've set up that bin range, it helps us be a little more clear and more precise and specific on what we're looking at. Next thing we want to do is go to the chart and axis titles. I'm going to title this chart Liam's lunch spending, right? Something that actually tells you about what we're looking at. I can label my horizontal axis, so along the bottom. This is cost of lunch, includes some units, right? It's in dollars. Go to our vertical axis. This is frequency. Or if you wanted to be more specific, you could say number of lunches. Right, the frequency of what in this case? And now that we've customized this, right, we have a clearly labeled histogram that's explaining what we're seeing. Right, we know the title. We know that now this is talking about how many times he buys lunches at certain costs. All right, so explaining our understanding, maybe saying something like Liam spent a minimum of $6 and a maximum of $48. We might also notice a fact that he spent on average $5 to $30 with a one-time large lunch purchase of $45 to $50. Right, looking a little bit more at the chart, it looks like his common price mostly paid $15 to $20. Right, that was our highest bar. That means it had the most frequency. It happened the most often. Let's do our last example here. We have 30 students who all received some marks in this range on a test. First thing first, we want to create a histogram. We can also select the data first and then insert a chart. Right, and it chooses that series for us. In this case, it pretty well recognizes that we think this should be a histogram. So that can give you a hand, right? Google's pretty smart. Just going to move that here. It even labeled it with our title here. So if your data has a title, that can help out. But again, it can't do all the work for us. Do we really care about a kid being 60 versus a kid being 61? Does that make a big change? No, not really. So mainly here, again, I want to adjust my bucket size. Noticing this one is already ordered. Our lowest score was 57. Our highest score was 81. So a bucket size, this time I think of about 10 would be good, because let's think about the context, right? Bucket size of not 10, 10. And now this isn't quite what I was looking for. I would rather see it go from 50 to 60, 60 to 70, right? Maybe those spectrum grades. So horizontal axis, I can change my minimum value and my maximum value. So now it's showing us 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and 80 to 90. So that was under my horizontal axis. I want to go in and add my other labels, vertical axis title. It's the frequency, but really it's the number of students, right, who achieved those scores. And then our title, again, histogram of test mark is not the most useful. We can say Unit 1 test scores, right? Something that actually is telling us about what we're seeing. Again, when we analyze this graph, right, explain what our understanding is, we can see that most kids earned competent, right? 70 to 79%, right? 70 to 80, but those 80s are in the next column. We can see that no kids earned below 50, right? Everyone passed. We can also see that no kids earned 90 plus, right? At least out of the data we have. Right? The scores are mostly centered around the middle, which as a teacher, that's what I want to see happening in tests. So hopefully that clears up a bit how to make histograms using Google Sheets. Again, if you have any questions, stop by your teacher's tutorial, send them an email, ask some questions.